Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Let us move ahead and discuss a few more important things related to typography and type construction. Type or letter construction in typography involves designing the shapes and structures of characters within a typeface. It considers proportions, stroke weight, serifs, curves, and counters to ensure readability and aesthetic appeal. Balanced construction creates harmony while variations convey style, such as from traditional to modern. Precision in letter construction defines a typeface identity and it makes it unique. Training the eye to recognize type begins with familiar elements on the page. Looking at both a typeface's basic shape and its finest detail is the first step towards understanding how type works. The legible and readable type depends on a few basic principles: space between individual letters and around words. Choosing the right typeface for right text also means using the right spacing. So spacing is going to be the main talk in this whole session. Typography exists in the context of word, or you can say space. That means if one has a better understanding of space, he can do better typography. Do you agree with this? Maybe you will come back to this once we finish the session and then you tell me what do you think. So if you look at a page, there is a blank space, right? If you look on the screen, this is space, blank space between the content area and the edges of the page. What do you think? What it is called? Any idea? It is called margin. So the margin serves several purposes. It enhances readability by creating a comfortable buffer around text or images, ensuring content isn't cramped or overwhelming. Margins also provide a visual frame, enhancing the design's aesthetics, and it draws attention to the content. From the practical aspects, if you are looking at margins allow space for binding and trimming during the printing process or adding notes and annotations. So many times we use margin to give instruction to the printer as well. Okay. And the last one is proper margins helps in maintaining a balance and proportional layout, which ensures the design looks professional and well structured. That means the effective use of margin is essential for clear and polished design and for the design which is powerful and communicative. What about the space between paragraphs? Right, so this one on the screen, if you look at this space, this is called indent. In page layout, an indent is a space inserted at the beginning of a paragraph. So here the first paragraph is ending. Now you can see in next paragraph the line is shifting a little bit. Okay, so this is the space which is added or inserted at the beginning of a paragraph to visually separate it from the previous text block. It serves in several ways and it helps design or the whole reading more efficient. So if you look into the kind of the importance of indent helps readers quickly identify the start of a new paragraph. In that way, it is improving the readability. By creating visual breaks, indents contributes to a clean and organized appearance as well. Indents can be used instead of extra line space, right? So if you are not using an indent, most probably you will have one extra line space to separate the paragraph. Okay, so when you are using an indent, you will save a lot of space, and it will also maintain the clarity. So proper use of indents ensures a structured and reader friendly layout. Let us further zoom in and go into details. What about the space between the lines? Okay, so there are two lines. Each lines have a space between these within each. Okay, so it is called leading. Leading refers to the vertical space between lines of text or the page measured from baseline to baseline. So from, if you look at my cursor, so this leading is this much from this base to the top line base. It is crucial element in typography and design, affecting readability and aesthetics as well. Key aspect of leading includes readability and visual balance. So adequate leading ensures lines of text don't appear cramped or too far apart, making it easier for reader to follow. Proper leading creates harmony within the text and between the text and other design elements. Designer adjusts leading based on font size. So it is not like randomly you create this leading space. So it is also in a proportion with the font size. Then only it will look good on the screen. So when designer adjusts this leading, and most probably typically they do this setting around 120 to 145% of the font size. Effective use of leading ensures a clean, professional and reader friendly layout as well. Now tell me, the space between words, what do you think? What it is called? It is referred as word spacing. So the word spacing in page layout refers to the horizontal space between individual words within a block of text. So these are the word spaces, right? So within each word there is a space. It is a key component of typography that directly impacts readability and the overall appearance of the text on your page. If you look into the importance of word spacing, proper word spacing ensures that text is easy to read by preventing words from appearing too cramped or too far apart. It contributes to a uniform and harmonious text flow, especially in justified text alignment. Designer often fine-tune word spacing to avoid awkward gaps, that is called reverse. Especially in justified or centered layout. Word spacing may vary based on the typeface used, as different fonts have inherent kerning and spacing characteristics. An appropriate word spacing is critical for achieving a polished, professional, and reader-friendly design. Let us zoom in even further. Now, the space between letters, okay, can you notice this? So each letter has, between these two letters, there is space. Earlier we saw this space, which is the space between word. What do you think? What it is? It is called kerning, right? So the kerning is the process of adjusting the spacing between individual characters in a piece of text to improve visual harmony and legibility. It ensures that the space between letters appears natural and balanced, avoiding awkward gaps or overlaps. Key points about kernings are, unlike tracking, tracking is another term where uniform letter spacing happens. So when you change the tracking, accordingly same amount of letter spacing happen between each letter. However, the Kearney is more focused on a specific characters pair, such as for example th. So when you're talking about kerning between these two, you individually adjust this space rather than looking at the other space between other letters. Okay, so th, uz or gh, these are the spaces which comes under when you are doing it individually. It refines the overall appearance of text, especially in logos, headlines, or maybe large display text. Some typefaces have built-in kerning. Okay, so they have built-in kerning pairs, but manual adjustments may still be needed for perfection. So if you look into the overall contribution, kerning enhances the readability and professionalism of text. Okay, so it becomes very sophisticated, making designs more visually appealing. Now the space within the letters, right? So we are gradually moving inside. So we started with margin, then we moved to indent, then leading, then kerning. Now space within the letter. It is referred as counter space. That means it is the balance between form and counter form, right? The counters are the enclosed or partially enclosed area within a letter form. These spaces can significantly impact the appearance and legibility of typeface. There are two types of counter. One is closed and another is open counters. If you look at screen, so letter O has closed counter, whereas if you look at U or letter A, this is the open counter. Okay, even H. So the closed counters are fully enclosed space, such as in letters like O, D and maybe G, and open counters are partially enclosed spaces found in letters like C, E, S and some form of G, when G is single story. Single story means now on the screen you can see this G is double story because there are two balls and then two closed counters are there. But there are another type of, especially when you look into sans serif font, you will find that G is single story. So what is the importance of counters? Why do designers spend a lot of time designing and refining the same? Well-designed counters contribute to the clarity and readability of a typeface. That means it enhances legibility. The size and shape of counters can influence the overall style and tone of the font. For example, open counters create a more modern, airy feel, while the tight counters can feel compact and traditional. Counters also play a role in maintaining uniformity and balance in letter forms. That means they are a fundamental aspect of type design, shaping the visual identity of a character. So as you notice, there is so much importance given to the spacing within the page layout as well as within the letters. So if you want to be a sensitive designer, then it is all about understanding of space, right? Spacing plays a crucial role in organizing content and enhancing readability. So it is not about just text. We also discuss about spacing in relation with the page layout or a composition. So effective spacing creates balance, clarity and aesthetic harmony in a layout. If you look at this work by Andrew and Frutiger, it highlights the importance of balance between space. Individual letters must be designed separately and visualized together. When digital technology was not available, this visualization was done manually by crafting each letter and then arranging it together on a sheet. If there are any changes, corrections are done using white ink or just cutting and replacing the previous letter. So that means it was a very tedious task and you have to do everything manually. Also, another important thing is that letter cannot be designed or visualized in isolation. This thing you should remember. Each letter has to be compared and seen in relation to other letters or characters in the font and font family. That's why if you group these letters based on their width or other characteristic features, you will find certain patterns such as letter B, E, F, L, P, R, all these and S can be grouped in one group. And similarly, I and J can be grouped in another group, or C, D, G, O and Q. And this grouping here, it is happening because of the width of the letter. Similarly, based on the different attributes, the grouping can again happen, right? Different kind of form, characters or different kind of parts a letter carries. Accordingly, one can group those letters. So let us discuss some more formal attributes important for letter form construction. Letter stroke contrast. It refers to the variation in thickness between the different strokes that make a letter form. This contrast can have a significant importance and impact on the style, readability, and the mood conveyed by a typeface. Stroke contrast is an essential concept in typography and plays a critical role in how fonts are designed and perceived. So if you look into the screen, you will find that the first one, it has very less contrast, okay, or no contrast. So this is called monolinear. Then you have a very low contrast, okay, where it's a very subtle. And then you have medium contrast, the third one, okay, scalar font. And then in D-dot family, you get a very high and dramatic contrast. These things we discuss in type classification as well, if you remember. Okay, so this kind of contrast brings a different kind of identity and characteristic features to a font or a font family and to the letter. With advancement in design tools and technology, typefaces or typeface families have become more larger and more diverse. Modern mega families can include hundreds of variations such as ultra thin, inline, or decorative styles, as well as they also support different languages and special characters. So thanks to the software interpolation, designers can create in-between weight and style efficiently without having to manually draw each version from the scratch. So if you define the extremes, for example, in this case, this is the thinnest U and then here it is the thickest one, right? If we are just excluding the italics. So if these two extremes are defined, this software interpolation can just generate all other letters in between. And then a designer has to just look into individual character and do the final tuning to make it appropriate. Alright, so let us move ahead. Letter axis. In typography, letter axis refers to the invisible line or angle that runs through the thinnest part of the letter form. Right, so if you look at letter O here, so this the line which is running from the thinnest part. And this is quite common, particularly in letter O, A, D, right, or even E, letter E, where you have a circular letter form. It shows the direction or angle of contrast between thick and thin strokes. The axis helps reveal the style or influence of the typeface, such as whether it is based on calligraphy, for example the diagonal strokes, or modern geometric design, where you will find most of the time vertical strokes, a vertical axis is apparent. Ligature. In typography, ligatures are special characters that combine two or more letters into a single glyph to improve readability or enhance aesthetics. Ligatures are typically used to address issues with spacing or to prevent awkward collisions between the letter forms, particularly in serif and script typefaces. They can also add a decorative or stylistic flair to the text. So for example, if you look at this FI, which has been turned into this form, which is quite compact and clear. Similarly, otherwise this tittle, the dot, and then the end of the letter F create a lot of conflict. Similarly, FL, FF, or FFI, you will find that just to remove the conflict and remove the complexity, it has been translated into ligature, where it has become very simple and efficient. If you investigate the details of any letter form construction, many considerations have been taken to make it optically correct to our eyes when we are looking at it or reading at it, and this is in terms of weight, width, and height. Optical correction in letter form construction refers to the adjustment which has been made to letter shapes and proportions to ensure they appear visually balanced and harmonious to the human eye. These constructions this kind of corrections compensate for how we perceive shapes and forms, which often differ from their actual geometric measurement. Without optical corrections, typefaces could appear uneven, distorted, or less readable, especially in small or large sizes. For example, as visible in the top image, if you look at this, if rectangular and oval forms have the same height and width, the oval form looks physically smaller, right? So to match this with the rectangular form, right? So what you have to do, then the size of the oval form is increased a little bit. So one must have to increase so that both looks very balanced and of a equal weight. And this kind of decisions and the treatment type designer takes when they are crafting each letter. Okay, so it is not like you fix a measurement and you fix the width and height and then you are able to create all letter which will go well with or which where everyone will complement and look similar. It will not work. So this small optical corrections or the small treatment to individual letter is very much required. Similarly, in letter S, though we feel like the top and bottom circles are of the same measurement, right? So this is where equal circle has been used, but it is not. Lower circle always expand, right? And if you look at the image, it has shown in green color, light green. So the illusion of optical break in letter form construction is a technique used in typography to address visual consistencies that occurs due to the way our eye perceives shapes, especially in areas where strokes are connected or intersect. So this is another important aspect which has to be looked when you are creating or crafting your letter where you have intersection or connection within the letter form. This technique helps create a sense of balance, continuity, and clarity by adjusting letter form to counteract these visual issues. Okay. So when two contrasting strokes cross, the thin line appears to shift upward, right? So if you look into this example, so where thin and thick strokes has been used, okay, and contrasting strokes, then it feel like it has moved upward, so it is not in a straight line. So offsetting the stroke give the illusion of an unbroken line. So in the second example, right here, so this has been shifted, and then if you look at this form, it looks very awkward, and then it is not also going in a one direction. But when you fill this thicker strokes also with the same color, you will find that it appears like it is moving smoothly, and because of that the counter has been also balanced, right? So the illusion of optical break increases with the contrast and angle as well. So the right side example, if you look into this, so once the contrast is changing, right, this line is becoming thin and thin, and also if the angle is changing, and suddenly you at the last, I mean in the last example, you feel like both lines are moving in a different direction. So this is what as a designer you should take care, or you should understand how to construct the letter form. Ink traps. Ink traps are purposeful design modifications in the letter forms where small notches or gaps are added at the junctions of the strokes. These tiny details are designed to account for ink spread or bleeding during printing process. It was quite popular during the early period when the paper quality was not good. So ink traps prevent letters from appearing overly dark, smudged, or losing definition in these areas, especially in smaller font size or when printed on a lower quality paper. Now within a typeface, there are key characters which are treated differently, such as letter A, E, F, G, etc. So these characters help to distinguish one typeface from another. So if you look at the screen, there is a letter A which is single or double story. Single and double story concept is about having single counter and double counter or double ball. So in letter A, if you look at this letter where you have a single counter, second letter you have a closed counter and one open counter space as well. Similarly, if you look at letter E, where many times you will find that horizontal crossbar has been turned into oblique, and these changes has been done just to make the letter form unique. It is also visible in letter F, where the first letter is sitting on the baseline, whereas the second letter, which is going down the baseline, descending down the baseline. Also, you will find a lot of variation in letter G as well, where you will find single story letter and double story letter. So again, in single story you have single counter space, in double story you have double closed spaces, and one is open space as well. So this kind of treatment, even if you look into letter Q and R, where a lot of possibilities to change the tail of the letter Q, and also change the tail of letter R. Okay, that is also called leg. So these kind of changes designer do just to give an individual personality and character to their font and their typefaces. Okay, so I hope this is clear in terms of bringing out newness and uniqueness to the letters, and then accordingly different kind of treatments generally designer used to give to these at least these few letters. Another important thing is decoration. Decoration in typefaces are very common, and this refers to the added stylistic elements or embellishments or any different kind of ornamental features in letter form that go beyond functional design. And these kind of letter forms are quite popular in display typefaces. And this contributes to a font's aesthetic characters, making it suitable for particular mood and appropriate for particular theme. Decorative elements can make a typeface feel more expressive, unique, or aligned with a particular visual language and style, such as vintage, modern, playful, or elegant. For example, in some decorative typefaces, inline, which is the first example on the screen, right, the thin line running inside the strokes of the letter, or outline, the second example, where the letter's border is defined but the inside is hollow. So these kind of treatments are given or maybe added to give an engraved or 3D effect. This is often seen in retro, industrial or engraved styles, adding depth and texture to the typeface. Similarly, if you look into the third example where shadow has been used, and then in the fourth example where reverse approach has been taken, and if you look into the last example where icon has been used, so it is kind of a juxtaposition of letter with the image. So this kind of treatments generally type designer do to bring out the emotions and to make letter work well with respect to individual project or requirement. And once you have a decoration, it also create a very powerful impact to the user or viewer who is looking at it. So in many cases, for example, you go back to wood type timeline where or early period during industrial revolution where texts were only the medium to communicate with mass audience through pamphlet or poster. You will find a lot of wood typeface which has lot of decoration, right? And this decoration also brings lot of variation within the letter form and within the font family or within the font. Clear? So we discussed a lot of things in this session, and I hope you will remember the details and concept we have covered throughout this discussion. And most importantly, our discussion on the balance between space and counter space. If you remember, we started with margin and then we moved into the page layout where indent, leading, and then spacing. Then we also talked about tracking, then kerning, right? And then also counter space. And then we concluded that it is understanding typography is about understanding this counter and counter spaces, understanding the foreground and background, understanding the space in a better way. So all right, I hope you will remember, and we will stop here. In next video lecture, we will cover typographic principles and try to understand what goes into creating a powerful design. Till then, bye and see you soon.